Welcome to the broadcast. Tonight, former Congressman and New York City Mayor Ed Koch, who is now a popular radio talk show, will be here with opinions on a lot of things. Also, we'll have engineer, inventor, and entrepreneur Dean Kamen. He'll talk about how he makes science as attractive to kids as sports. We begin with Thomas Hoving. He is a man who knows his way around the art world. He once wrote a book called, he's just wrote a book called Making the Mummies Dance. It is inside the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and he's here to talk about that and to talk about a lot of other things that have to do with his life in and out of the art world. Welcome.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you here. Let me just talk, there are a lot of things I want to talk about, because this, boy, you spare no, you take no prisoners.
None, not even myself.
That's right, including yourself. That's my point. I mean, you have often said that it's glib for you to lie. Have you not?
Once I said
well,
that.
You said, okay, but it's
but
lived with
enough.
you. That's right. And now people are saying, how do we know what to believe about what Hoving writes?
When I say that it was glib to lie about a single lie I made,
Yeah.
which was important, that was about that lie. It doesn't mean a broad brush that's going to stroke everything I write in my entire career.
Yeah.
And I kept, at my 10 years at the Met, every day, all of the documents of every single day, and took a complete copy of this enormous paper record and tapes and all sorts of stuff with me when I left, and in the archives is the whole set of it. I didn't take the originals, I have all these copies. And when I started to do interviews for this book with people who were going to remember 20, 15 years ago, I found out to my distress that they didn't really remember. I was sitting there with the record in front of me, and what they told me that they remembered about the record was totally at odds with the written record. So I pretty well stuck to the written record. And I sent the book to people to check up on.
Yeah.
Of course, there are some errors, but they're not lies, and there's a heck of a difference.
All right, let me talk about becoming director of the Met and go back, because a lot of this has to do with, it is inside the Metropolitan Museum of Art. You were, I first knew about you when you were Parks Commissioner. Before that, you had been an art historian trained at Princeton with the Cloisters, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Parks Commissioner, a great photograph of you bicycling through the park was kind of a notion of the Lindsay administration. A young group of people had taken over running this city. And then at 36, you become director of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Look back at that experience now and tell me what you think you did for New York and for the Metropolitan. What were the best things that you brought to it? Before we look at the other side.
Right, blunders. The key thing to remember is that I returned to the Metropolitan not as a scholar with a PhD and not as a director, but as a Parks Commissioner, a politician running for office every day. And with that attitude, which is what I had, the Clown Prince of Fun City, I opened up the museum with publicity, with going to every talk show, every television show, all the headlines and we could garner to make the place scream that it was there. And people didn't understand that this was...
And the operative philosophy was art for the masses or art for more people than the elite.
We went back to the founders' two purposes of 1870. The people who started the Met had two goals. One, popular instruction, which meant broad instruction, and recreation. That wasn't bouncing basketballs. It was recreation, refreshment of the mind and the eye and the soul. We went back to what they wanted and opened the place up. Took it away from the people who were in the club who thought they owned it.
What created the most controversy for you at the Met?
Everything.
I know, it did. It did. We can talk about Harlem on My Mind.
We had a show which was about Harlem as the cultural capital of Black America. We had a catalog in which, in the essay introductory, there was a statement about anti-Semitism on the part of the blacks, which got us in great trouble.
And had some paintings damaged with your H sort of painting?
Somebody put my initial or somebody's initial H on some of the old masters, which thank goodness turned out to only be on the varnish. But there was a time of terrible stress. It was the school strike, which was a black-Jewish confrontation. Saddam Hussein had just come to power and hanged a number of, quote, spies, unquote, from Israel at the opening of the show. It was one picket line after another. And what it did was, on the good side, blacks, Hispanics began to come to the museum for the first time, but we lost courage and never had another sociological show ever, ever, ever.
Why? Because this one was brought forth the charges of anti-Semitism? Was that the reason or some other reason?
And the city council, because of that, said no more money for the Metropolitan. And the mayor, John Lindsay, a great civil libertarian, took the catalog and forced us to take it off sale.
Is that when he said you should be fired?
Did he say that?
No, I thought I read that somewhere.
Well, maybe I should have been. I mean, if he says it.
Because he had appointed you as Parks Commissioner.
I think he said, if I didn't remove the catalog from sale, I should be fired. And we removed it.
All right, let me get the title in of the book. Making the Mummies Dance is a quote from John Lindsay. The mayor says, you say, I'm going away at 36 years old to be the director of the Met, and he says, that seems like a terribly boring place, but...
Hoping, knowing you, you'll make the mummies dance. Yeah. And we did. And some of the dummies, too.
Did you? Yeah. You mean the real-life dummies? Or the
real-life dummies.
The search for great art. Explain it to me. Tell me your best story of how you go out and you compete. You're competing with Carter Brown, who's at the National Gallery. Give me your best story that illustrates this process, this game, this thing that seemed, as some of your critics have said, the thing that most ignited the full power, curiosity, energy of Tom Hoving.
It did. It did.
Yes, it did.
Great treasures come from nowhere.
Yeah.
A Velázquez.
Yes.
Juan de Pareja, 1650, perfect condition, English country house, Lord Radnor never was going to sell it. It came up on the market. What was it going to be? $5.25, $5.5 million. Now that's when $5.5 million was enormous.
Yes.
We had been after the painting for 25, 30 years. We had to get the painting. So what we did was
Why did you have to get this painting?
Well, it was the quintessential example of Diego Velázquez, who may have been the 17th century greatest painter. And look at the other ones, Rembrandt, you name them, right? We had to have the painting. We had been after it. Where we're going to get the money, what we were going to do about the competition. So, the money we raised.
Yeah, but you raised it by selling some of your own collection.
Actually, no. We raised the money and then later had to sell things to help pay back for the loan that we had taken from our own endowment.
But tell America what you sold in order to raise that money to pay.
Sold an awful lot.
Van Gogh?
Well, actually, we sold a Van Gogh that was not very good. We sold a Douanier Rousseau that was not very good. We sold countless other things that we never even showed. You know, not even were on the wall. So
in your mind, that was a good deal then, a good deal still.
Absolutely.
Okay. So go ahead.
What we had to do was to get the competition to believe our disinformation, and we strew out rumors there.
Competition is all the great museums in the world?
And private collectors.
It's certainly the National Gallery.
And the Evil Empire, which was the National Gallery of Art in Washington. Boy, that was our evil empire.
You were really jealous of Brown, weren't you?
You know. So we did it, and we forced him to, one, reveal his what he was going to bid.
Yeah.
He didn't realize he was doing it. And two, got the people suspicious that this painting wasn't in as good condition as it turned out to be.
That's disinformation as practiced by, say, the KGB.
Yeah, right.
So this painting may not be as good. You spread the rumor by having somebody say, what do you do, leak it, that notion, or how did you do that?
Well, there was a guy on the staff who always talked because he wanted to show off that he knew things. When I ever wanted a rumor out in the art market, I'd have lunch with him in my office and say confidentially, but I mean, this can't go out to anybody. And I would say, we're not going to be in the painting. We're not going to be in the auction. We're pulling out because we haven't gotten the money or something. And the word spread around town in 20 minutes that we were out of